It is well established that abusers are enabled when those with oversight responsibilities or those in their inner circle fail to hold them fully to account, either out of fear, self-interest, or a combination of both. For example, Henry Dinkins, a convicted child sex abuser, was able to escalate his offending from age 17, up to kidnap, rape and murder at age 48, because the soft-touch criminal justice system and others in his orbit failed to hold him to account fully and promptly. Dinkins was just 4 months into his latest parole and awaiting trial on an unrelated felony charge when the registered sex offender who was barred from having contact with minors, kidnapped, raped and murdered his 8-year-old son's 10-year-old half-sister, when both siblings were sleeping over for the first time, in the home of Dinkins' girlfriend of 6 years, Andrea Culberson. Culberson testified in court that she was so alarmed when she woke up in the middle of the night to find Dinkins and the girl missing that she stayed awake to see him creeping back into her residence shortly afterwards. During that encounter, she looked out of her window and saw the 10-year-old in her nightwear, waiting outside by his car. Despite this disturbing development, Dinkins offered no explanation to Culberson as he stealthily retrieved what turned out to be the gun with which he murdered her. He returned to his car and drove off with the girl, who was never seen alive again. Culberson also gave the impression that her submissiveness to, and fear of a domineering Dinkins, caused her failure to challenge him properly. However, the truth of the matter was, she failed to challenge him out of fear of losing him. It is instructive that Dinkins was so assured of Culberson's subservience that he killed the 10-year-old despite Culberson having seen him depart with her. Dinkins' faith in Culberson was confirmed by the fact that when the police arrived in the morning looking for the girl, she lied and obstructed the investigation by not disclosing what had transpired earlier. Furthermore, during her initial police interview, Culberson was defensive and challenged what she felt was a line of questioning that unfairly targeted her registered sex offender partner. It appears that it wasn't until Culberson ran into some legal troubles of her own that she snitched on Dinkins. Like Dinkins, Trump is a domineering bully, accustomed to physically and verbally abusing those in his orbit. Many of his cabinet have attested to their unwillingness to stand up to him for fear of being berated by him or to further their own agenda. Like Dinkins, Trump is also a repeat offender who has been treated lightly by the justice system. Up until the end of his presidency, Trump was a serial abuser who had suffered little or no sanctions despite facing multiple accusations of sexual assault and harassment. Since his first brush with the law at age 27 and, up until he became president at age 70, Trump had been involved in over 4,000 legal cases in U.S. federal and state courts. It is therefore no surprise that, like Dinkins, Trump became convinced that he could rely on the continued support of his loyalists even if he were to commit murder in their presence. Like Culberson, Biden appears to have submitted to the domineering bully in his orbit and joined the ranks of those who are continuing to enable Trump's misconduct by failing to hold him to account promptly and fully. Like Culberson, Biden appears to be justifying his actions because of the fear of the civil unrest that could erupt if he sought to hold his dominus to account, when the truth is that he is acting out of self-interest. On the surface, Biden's fear of igniting civil unrest amongst Trump supporters informed his decision to dither and delay over bringing Trump to justice. However, it is more likely that Biden is acting out of self-interest, because the delay has allowed Trump to emerge as an unelectable challenger to Biden's second-term aspirations. Biden's repeated concerns about the violence and civil unrest that could possibly arise from bringing justice to Trump was an open invitation to Trump and his supporters to threaten violence and civil unrest in order to avoid justice. Biden also enabled Trump's attack on democracy in other ways, including failing to sanction the heads of the government agencies that failed to prevent the openly plotted coup attempt and protect the Capitol. Christopher Wray, the Trump-appointed head of the FBI that predicted but failed to prevent the January 6th attack on democracy, is still there today. Stephen Sund, the Trump-appointed head of the U.S. Capitol Police, that failed to prevent the sacking of the Capitol, voluntarily resigned after his efforts to defend his and his agency's actions leading up to and including January 6th were roundly condemned by the Congress and the public. James Murray, the Trump-appointed head of the Secret Service, who presided over the subsequent deletion of the Secret Service records that would have shed some light on the allegations that the Secret Service colluded with the insurrectionists, also resigned voluntarily in January 2022. It is instructive that it is Biden's government that chose to delay bringing charges against Trump for unlawfully retaining and refusing to return classified documents for over 2 years. It's Biden's Secret Service that was protecting Donald Trump at the time that he was resisting efforts by Biden's DOJ and Trump's FBI-appointed chief to recover classified documents. The deferential treatment that Biden gave to Trump should only have been afforded to a compliant and respectful former president. It is well established around the world, including in banana republics, that the main beneficiaries of a failed coup attempt and their leading accomplices are the first to be arrested, detained, charged, and convicted to restore law and order promptly. Therefore, all the political instability and turmoil generated by the anti-democracy forces, up to 3 years after their failed coup attempt, are a damning indictment and direct result of Biden's failure to bring swift and prompt justice to the American people. Biden's failure to lead paved the way for brave state prosecutors to show that Trump can be held accountable, regardless of, and without any significant violent backlash from his supporters. The woeful failure of the attempt by Biden and his Attorney General to suggest that the appointment of a special counsel would successfully distance them from accusations of political bias speaks volumes. Biden's fears or selfish interests have only served to ensure that Trump is his main challenger in the upcoming presidential election, at the expense of the democracy that Biden was charged with upholding and protecting. However, like Culberson, Biden's legacy has been severely damaged as he will go down in history as the president who was preoccupied with virtue signaling from a heavily protected sideline while democracy and those in the forefront of the battle against fascism came under the fiercest attack ever in American history. Biden's decision to take a back seat in the media war against democracy may yet be his undoing, as he has given the front seat and all the attendant media coverage to his challenger in a world where publicity is king. This is an astonishing move for a man whose presidency was almost aborted due to a fierce media war against truth. Culberson will not only have to live with the knowledge that she could have prevented the murder of her 10-year-old ward if she had been more forthcoming in challenging her partner, but also with the knowledge that she then went on to delay justice for Breasia. Biden, likewise, will not only have to live with the knowledge that he could have prevented Trump's continued attempts to murder American democracy, which is over 200 years old, if he had been more forthright in holding him to account, but also with the knowledge that he will be responsible for any lives lost in the intervening period. Should Trump succeed in 2024, then Biden will also go down in history as the president who failed to preserve democracy because he was preoccupied with appeasing Trump, in much the same way as the British Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain, failed to prevent the Second World War by appeasing Hitler.